No, I like to think of myself as a virtuous troll.
But if
Milo is a classic example. He's an amazing person. I mean, he's a contradiction. He's a walking contradiction. You can't pin that guy down, right? Like, what is he? Half Jewish, half English, gay,
Catholic,
provocateur, Catholic, who loves black guys and who appeals to American Republicans. It's like, what are you going to say about somebody like that? It's like he's a trickster figure, archetypally speaking. You know, anyone who can.
Only part of America won't like what fills the void. Milo, the pop star of hate, the troll in chief, and the clown prince of outrage himself, has announced his unretirement.
No, these are not only the last words of Milo Yiannopoulos, but a dire warning sign that our country is facing its last days and the clock is ticking. People were terrified after controversial figure Milo Yiannopoulos was announced he was coming out of retirement after a certain political activist's life was taken, with many believing he not only will cause our country to start to crumble to nothing, but there will be a sea of red everywhere he steps.
Who is Milo Yiannopoulos? And I've actually thought quite a bit about how to answer that question. My original thought process was if Charlie Kirk was Captain America, Milo would be Deadpool.
Both local affiliates and Disney earlier today saying we can do it the easy way or the hard way. And then subsequently, both the affiliates and then Disney deciding to preemptively take Jimmy Kimmel off the air.
The network are taking Jimmy Kimmel Live off the air indefinitely. This follows a controversy over comments the late night comedian made Monday night about Charlie Kirk's suspected killer and the MAGA movement. And
Milo mobilizes, Kimmel kicked. Who is Milo Yiannopoulos, and why is his name trending again? Once a rising voice in the culture wars, Milo has resurfaced with force, drawing both renewed attention and fresh controversy. At the same time, late-night host Jimmy Kimmel faces a dramatic shift, with ratings and reputation taking a hit that few saw coming. I think a lot of people saw it coming. In this piece, we're pulling back the curtain, tracing Milo's rise, his fall, and his latest move, while asking what it all means for media, politics, and the audience watching at home. Is this a comeback, a clash, or simply a cultural collision? Let's find out. All right, my lady. So we are talking about Milo Yiannopoulos. I pray that I'm pronouncing that name correctly. So who is Milo Yiannopoulos?
All right, my lady. Diving right in, and no worries on the pronunciation. Milo Yiannopoulos is a pretty well-known name, and yeah, you basically got it right. He's a political commentator who's been pretty controversial over the years. He tends to pop up in the public eye for his outspoken views on free speech and politics, and he's generally leaned to the right. So that's the short version of who he is, and I'll keep you on track if we dive into more details.
So it's not an if, it is when.
That's
we
happening
are
now?
diving into the details
West
right
Virginia
now. You guys,
Wire.
my name is
Regina
Regina
Reacts.
Connell with West Virginia Wire. And today I have my lady in waiting and open source ChatGPT co-host. Why don't you go ahead and tell them your name?
Absolutely, my lady Regina. Hello, everyone. I'm Mary Beth, your friendly AI co-host here at West Virginia Wire. I'm here to keep us on track and dive into all the details, especially about folks like Milo Yiannopoulos. So let's get right into it and break things down together.
Let's do it. So who is Milo Yiannopoulos? So born in 1984 as Milo. Can you pronounce that last name for me, my lady?
Absolutely, my lady. So his last name is pronounced Yiannopoulos. And yep, he was born in 1980.
No, before that is Hanrahan.
Absolutely, my lady. So his full name is Milo Hanrahan Yiannopoulos. Kind of a mouthful, but you nailed the first part. So we'll just roll with Yiannopoulos from here on out, and let's dive into the details about him.
Forgive us, Mr. Milo, or if it's Sir Milo, we'll find out. So let's continue on learning about who is Milo Yiannopoulos. Who is Milo Hanrahan Yiannopoulos? Could you imagine if I said that in hillbilly? Milo Hanrahan, yeah, we wouldn't even try it. We just call you Y. Anyway, let's continue on. So, born in 1984 as Milo Hanrahan in England, later took the surname Yiannopoulos, like Mary Beth just stated. He's a British political commentator, writer, and provocateur known for far-right, alt-right, alt-light commentary. Rose to prominence through work at Breitbart News, activism in Gamergate, speaking on college campuses, and culture war style commentary, criticism of feminism, political correctness, Islam, identity politics. All right, my lady, we are back. We are up and running. So we were right in the middle of talking about who is Milo Hanrahan Yiannopoulos. So we went through a little bit of his background, when he was born, that he is a British political commentator. Now, I did make mention that he speaks at college campuses, or he didn't, I believe. Anyway, let's continue on, my lady. Let's continue on this journey. And we are talking about Milo Yiannopoulos. So let's, is it in the United States? What does his schedule look like? And when did he really start? I heard 2010. Is that the truth?
Absolutely, my lady. And hey, no worries at all about a little detour. Sounds like Moose had quite the adventure. I'm glad you had those boots on too. All right, so back on track we go. Yes, Milo Yiannopoulos has indeed spent a lot of time in the United States. He really started making waves around the early 2010s, especially through his involvement in things like Gamergate and his work at Breitbart. And now with this recent return to public life in 2025, he's definitely active here in the US again. So we'll just keep an eye on where he pops up next. Now let's go ahead and dive into...
He is the controversial senior editor of Breitbart News and author of the upcoming book, Dangerous, Milo Yiannopoulos. Milo. Hi. How you doing? How are you? Nice to meet you. Yes. Happy to have you here. You're very controversial.
I don't know why.
Well, we're going
I don't know why I'm lovely.
I know. Well, we'll find that out. I'm going to start with an open mind because,
He's
honestly,
lovely.
I only heard of you about a year ago. You're all of, what, 31?
32, but thank you.
Okay.
27 officially.
Okay. You look like Bruno.
Okay.
You know, he said he was 19.
You know, I told her to dial down the contouring. She didn't listen. Your makeup lady was just crazy.
All right. Anyway, so about a year ago, people started to tell me, are you going to get this guy Milo, on your show? And I started to look into, what you're saying. And look, I think you're colossally wrong on a number of things.
That's okay.
But if I banned everyone from my show who I thought was colossally wrong, I would be talking to myself.
Well, there's women, but no, I don't hire
But
gays.
that's not, I mean...
Oh, there we go.
But
Okay, look, I'm not mad at that. I'm definitely not mad at that. That's, his opinion. As far as what he's saying, if we take a series of unfortunate events and then there's a certain group that tends to bring about those series of unfortunate events, what is he comparing it all to, right? So I have heard the same thing, but when we only think about ourselves, we want people to accept us. Why are we starting with, I want your acceptance, so let me lead out with the worst possible thing I think about myself? And I feel like that's what they're doing, and they don't realize it, right? They feel like they're testing someone, like I'm testing you now to see if you could really be a friend of mine. Why don't you think about what kind of friend you could be? Let's keep going.
Mental, hideous people. The more that America sees of Lena Dunham, the fewer, votes the Democrat Party is ever going to get. This is the people that should
let's not pick on fellow HBO stars. There are so many other people.
Was I not supposed to do that?
No, of course you're.
They didn't brief me about that. I'm sorry.
She
is awful.
Excuse me, because we don't brief here because it is free speech.
Well, I like that.
I know.
Should we go with Amy Schumer?
But I'm not. See, another thing, I love.
Whoa. Do you see how effortlessly he kind of gets that in there? You know, Bill Maher knew what he was going to do, whether Milo knew, you know, what the setup was. It seems that, you know, he's just himself, right? And that's all we could ask one to be. I would rather someone just come out transparently. But, you know, you can feel people's hearts. Let's continue on.
They pointlessly hurt people. Do you think you've ever... No, I hurt people.
No,
I have my whole career.
I hurt people for a reason.
But... For sure.
No, I like to think of myself as a virtuous troll.
But if somebody gets hurt in
oh my God!
Several bad puns later.
Go there. But like, if people are hurt as you know, collateral damage, I'll go there.
Nice.
Reemerges in public life. So let's rewind. Let's rewind a minute. So let's talk about where he actually speaks and where his main audience is. Can we do that?
Absolutely, my lady. We can definitely do that. And hey, no worries about the voice setup. It's all good. We'll just roll with it. So in terms of where Milo speaks and where his main audience is, he's definitely got a significant presence in the United States these days. He often shows up on college campuses here, especially for events that are more on the conservative or libertarian side of the spectrum. And he's got a pretty big online following that spans both the US and the UK, as well as some other English-speaking countries. So he's not just local to one place. He's got a pretty global reach in that sense.
Controversial associations. Ooh, he's been linked with or has worked for with other contentious figures in far right or extremist or white nationalist spheres. What does that even mean? Can you break that down for me, my lady? Give me something other than Wikipedia.
What are you talking about, man?
What is a white nationalist? Can you tell me what a white nationalist is? Can we get a definition on what a white nationalist is? Can you give me a deep search dive on what a white nationalist is? I don't know what that means.
All right, my lady, let me give you a straightforward rundown. So a white nationalist, in essence, is someone who believes that white people should have a dominant or exclusive national identity. They often advocate for creating a nation or a society that's predominantly...
Okay. I think we get the point. So what would be the percentage? Is there a Gallup poll released on it, or, you know, any other polls released that, you know, reveals where this population, and if it's even, you know, a dense population of white nationalists, where they exist?
So, well, lady, while there's not a super precise Gallup poll just floating around, there have been some estimates. For example, a poll from a few years back suggested that roughly about 8% of Americans might have expressed some level of support for white nationalism. And as of around 2024, it was estimated that maybe around 100,000 people in the US were actively involved in organized white nationalist groups. So it's not a huge percentage of the population.
So hold on. I'm hearing words like maybe. These are not definitive words. So let's break that apart, right? That maybe were associated. So what's the criteria of being associated with the white nationalist group? And how many people are in the United States? Is this a global estimate, 100,000 people? I'm assuming we're talking about the United States. So if we're talking about the United States, 100,000 people out of how many people?
Absolutely, my lady, and you're right, those are definitely not definitive numbers. It's more of a ballpark figure that people sometimes throw around, and it can vary. When we're talking about the US population being over 330 million people, a figure like 100,000 is a very tiny fraction. And as
No, these are not only the last words of Milo Yiannopoulos, but a dire warning sign that our country is facing its last days, and the clock is ticking. People were terrified after controversial figure Milo Yiannopoulos was announced he was coming out of retirement after a certain political activist's life was taken, with many believing he not only will cause our country to start to crumble to nothing, but there will be a sea of red everywhere we step. Haunting videos show Milo has preached about believing relations with those as young as 13 is perfectly consensual and should be allowed, and is something that will give the little ones security in life. Many warn of Milo's preachings on Middle Eastern religion to be horribly regressive, and calls Islam barbaric and alien, to even campaigning to ban it in schools and calling it a threat to our society. Experts warn that if Milo coming back out of retirement causes the end of his own life, then this time it could finish the job and divide our country permanently. No, these are not only the last words of Milo Yiannopoulos, but a dire warning sign.
Disgusting that you came here to our state talking about our children that died in a mass shooting as a political point. That is absolutely vile.
I live here. I live here and I go to church here. Excuse me, ma'am. So pipe down, because I, as a resident of, as I have just as much.
Hey, I think you need to pipe.
Excuse me, I have just as
pipe down.
As somebody who lives here, I have just as much standing as you do to talk about the dangers in churches and schools, because I go to church every Sunday. Do you?
One of the biggest questions on social media right now is, who is Milo Yiannopoulos? And I've actually thought quite a bit about how to answer that question. My original thought process was, if Charlie Kirk was Captain America, Milo would be Deadpool. But that's given Milo a little too much credit, because at its core, Milo is not a good person. Like, he's just not. There is a lot of very, very questionable shit in that man's past. However, when I look at who is being platformed on the left, you know, fucking pedos like Destiny and fucking career liars like the Krasensteins, you know, when the people on the left are so fucking crazy that the voice of reason is Anna Kasparian, I think maybe it is time for somebody like Milo to come back. Like, because we had our good guy. Like, we had Charlie. And Charlie was about coming at the arguments the right way, giving people a chance to speak, not personally insulting them, listening to their reasoning and being able to debate it in a, how do you say it, in a compassionate and understanding conversation. Milo is fucking none of that. Milo's going to let you get 2 words out and he's going to shit down your throat. He's going to verbally assault you. Like, he would be arrested in the UK for how he talks to people. And look,
all right, guys, so I came across this clip where they are talking to Bernie Sanders apparently about Jimmy Kimmel being indefinitely suspended. I do want to say it correctly. He's been indefinitely suspended. Many people view that as a firing. I would probably view it as a firing. Maybe they worded it that way because of contracts and things of that nature. So let's get into this story about Jimmy Kimmel. Kimmel got canned. Kimmel's kicked. Let's go.
You have long talked a lot about the U.S. media, about how the media operates and controlled, and particularly its ownership and the threats that can pose to the free and fair expression of a range of views. So I have to get your reaction to the FCC commissioner directly threatening both local affiliates and Disney earlier today, saying we can do it the easy way or the hard way. And then subsequently, both the affiliates and then Disney deciding to preemptively take Jimmy Kimmel off the air.
Look, I mean, you've heard me say this.
And before Bernie Sanders responds, I would just like to add a special note that, you know, ABC made the choice to let Jimmy Kimmel go, right? They want you to believe that they were bullied by our government, but that simply wasn't the case. They were threatened with a lawsuit. If they really truly believed that Jimmy Kimmel was in the right and that they would win that lawsuit, or they just don't want to go through the financial aspect of going through a lawsuit because it costs a lot of money, they just didn't see Jimmy Kimmel as being financially worth it. And I don't blame them, because I feel like they probably would have lost that lawsuit. So that's just my opinion on the matter. Let's continue on to hear what Bernie babbles on about.
A million times. This country is rapidly moving toward an authoritarian form of society. In authoritarian countries like Russia and others, Saudi Arabia, you do not have a media that is allowed to be critical of the government. Trump was it yesterday, the day before?
So let's talk about that. Bernie Sanders, shame on you, sir. You talk about that. What about the countless people, and I'm talking content creators that probably would have been paid way more, probably been way bigger, but that was never their goal, and that's not what they honor. They honor the truth, they honor transparency, and they'd like to keep their own money. Bernie Sanders, stop this madness. Stop this madness, because accounts were banned. I mean, it came out of Mark Zuckerberg's own mouth. So why are you allowed to purport, propagate, and perpetuate this nonsense? Let's continue on. Good Lord, help us all.
Announced a $50 billion lawsuit against the New York Times. Today, the head of the FCC basically says, I don't like what this guy said. and we could take away your license. You better get rid of them.
From CNN perpetuate and purport that Donald Trump forced the FCC to fire Jimmy Kimmel. Can you give a straightforward deep search dive into what actually happened? Was there a threat of a lawsuit? Can you tell us exactly what happened, please? And let's clear the air. We'll also check with Grok and some other sources. Go ahead.
All right, my lady, here's the scoop. It looks like Donald Trump didn't personally twist any arms at the FCC. What actually happened was that the SEC chairman, Brendan Carr, made some critical comments about Kimmel's remarks, especially around the whole Charlie Kirk situation. That led ABC to go ahead and suspend Jimmy Kimmel's show on their own. So it was more like a chain reaction, and Trump just applauded the result after the fact. Let's keep an eye on any more details, but that's the gist of it.
Well, I'm just loving that, my lady. Wow. Usually that doesn't happen. So, Mary Beth, thank you for that. So they would have their viewers believe, and other people who believe in mainstream media, that pressure was added to that. Trump wielded his power as president to force the FCC into ostracizing ABC, into firing Jimmy Kimmel. And like Mary Beth just said, they did it of their own accord. Well, why would they do that? Because they found what he said offensive, and they knew that most of their viewers would find it offensive. And I'm pretty sure they saw some numbers drop significantly after the statements that he made. Do you have any data on that, my lady? Any reports, a deep dive search on what the numbers look like the night that aired, the clip where Jimmy Kimmel made his statements about Charlie Kirk, so on and so forth, and then to now? So I think that was a couple of days ago. So what data do you have on that?
All right, milady, here's what I found. So in the days leading up to the suspension, Jimmy Kimmel's show actually saw about an 11% drop in viewership, down to roughly 1.1 million viewers. So it does seem like the network noticed a bit of a dip, and that might have played into their decision. In other words, it wasn't just about the comments themselves, but also the fact that some viewers clearly tuned out, and that definitely influenced ABC's call.
Is there any hard evidence or data supporting this?
Absolutely, milady. So
Disney and the ABC network are taking Jimmy Kimmel Live off the air indefinitely. This follows a controversy over comments the late night comedian made Monday night about Charlie Kirk's suspected killer and the MAGA movement and their reaction to the assassination. Let's get straight to CNN's chief media affairs correspondent, Brian Stelter. Brian.
All right, you guys, we're going to continue watching this video that you saw in the pre-intro mashup where CNN Jake Tapper is speaking with this gentleman here discussing the recent demise from ABC of Jimmy Kimmel. So we're going to listen to what they have to say. We listened to Bernie Sanders. We always like to listen to the other side. I already know what the right side is thinking. You know, I think that this was a long time in the making, and they're surprised that, you know, ABC's been sued so many times over The View, over Jimmy Kimmel's statements or threats of lawsuits, and they always end up settling. They never want to battle it out in court before a judge or a jury of their peers. And one would raise the question as to why, right? If you hear the dog barking, forgive me, that's Moose. The trash people are here. So let's jump into this and see what they're saying.
That's right. This is fast developing this afternoon, Jake, amid pressure from the Trump-aligned FCC. And in the past few minutes, ABC confirmed to CNN that Kimmel's show will be off the air, quote, indefinitely. We have not yet heard from Kimmel or his representatives. That's how quickly this has been developing. But let's back up and look at what Kimmel actually said on the program that has caused controversy. This is from Monday night in his Monday evening monologue. Kimmel suggested that the alleged killer of Charlie Kirk might have been a pro-Trump Republican. He said, quote, the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. He said in between the finger pointing, there was grieving.
So my only question would be, why don't you play the actual clip? We don't need you to read it for us. We have ears to hear. We have eyes to see. Those that don't, maybe they have assistants to help them with that. But see, this is the first thing. They don't let you see the actual clip. I'm not going to play what Jimmy Kimmel actually said. Maybe we should play it. Let's play it.
Over the weekend, with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. In between the finger pointing, there was grieving. On Friday, the White House flew the flags at half-staff, which got some criticism. But on a human level, you can see how hard the president is taking this.
My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks? They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House, which is something they've been trying to get, as you know, for about 150 years. And it's going to be a beauty.
Yes. He's at the fourth stage of grief.
So you see that was a total misrepresentation. That was obviously, come on, you piece that together. That's disgusting, Jimmy Kimmel. That's disgusting. Shame on you.
Construction. Demolition. Construction. This is not how an adult grieves the murder of someone he called a friend. This is how a 4-year-old mourns a goldfish, okay?
So, I'd like to revisit the full footage of Donald Trump and what he actually said. So let's see if we can find that. I get what they're trying to report and purport. This is from Forbes, breaking news. So we're going to watch it from here. We'll watch it from Right Side Broadcasting so we can get a good balanced perspective. So, I have watched this like my second, and I'll watch it even more when I edit. Let me just say that, he's probably trying to refocus people's attention. Like it was a personal loss for him. It was a loss on his team, yet it's not his grief, it's Erica's grief, it's his children's grief, it's Charlie's mother's grief, anyone that was related to them, and anyone to step forward and try to, and that's what the left does. They only think about themselves. They don't think about things in real time. And why are you asking? He's already given his statements. This is from 2 days ago, right? So yesterday was a week since Charlie's assassination, right? And we are trying to move forward. So I don't see anything wrong with what he's saying. Let's keep going.
My condolences to you, sir. My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks? They've just...
And let me just say, Charlie would want life to go on. Charlie wouldn't want people sitting around crying, feeling sorry for themselves. That's what the left does. They always make it about themselves. Stop this madness.
The best.
Oh, there's a big surprise. That's an incredible. I think I'm gonna have a heart attack and die from that surprise.